Okay, so at first glance, India's unemployment rate for June 2025 looks, well, stable. It's holding steady at 5.6%. Seems reassuring, right? But what if I told you that surface number? It hides a much more complex and maybe even concerning reality underneath. Today, we're taking a deep dive into India's labor market. We'll be, sifting through the recent data from the Periodic Labor Force Survey, the PLFS. Our mission here is to unpack the definitions, the trends, things that often get missed in the headlines, and really understand what it might signal about economic demand and what it means for you.
Yeah, and what's really significant here, and honestly quite unusual, is seeing that stable unemployment rate alongside a falling labor force participation rate. It really makes you wonder what the unseen story is within these numbers.
Okay, let's definitely unpack this. We hear unemployment rate all the time, but what does it actually mean? Specifically in this PLFS data we're looking at, how do they define unemployment?
Right, so the PLFS definition is quite specific. An unemployed person is someone who didn't work even for 1 hour on any day during the reference week, but they sought work or were available for work for at least 1 hour during that same week.
Ah, okay.
So it's really focused on those who actively wanted to work, looked or were available, but just couldn't find even that minimal amount of work.
Got it. Okay, now let's bring in the other key piece, the labor force participation rate, or LFPR. Sounds technical, maybe, but you're saying it's crucial.
Absolutely crucial for the full picture.
So what does the LFPR tell us?
Well, LFPR is the part of population that supplies or offers to supply labor for economic activities. So that includes both the employed people and the unemployed people we just defined.
Okay.
To simplify it, think of it as the total number of people who basically put their hand up and said, I'm available to work. It's the size of the available workforce pool.
Right, the pool of people available. Now, this next bit is where things get really interesting and maybe counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Logically, my first thought is, if fewer people are even looking for work, so a lower LFPR, shouldn't the unemployment rate go down?
Yeah.
Because, the pool of job seekers is smaller.
That's exactly the logical assumption. But this is where the data for May and June 2025 throws us a curveball.
Oh.
What's fascinating and a bit concerning is that the overall unemployment rate stayed the same. It held at 5.6%.
Even though the LFPR fell.
Even though the LFPR fell from 54.8% in May down to 54.2% in June, so unemployment didn't budge despite a smaller share of the population even offering to work. It suggests that finding a job got harder, even for that smaller group who were looking. That's a pretty strong signal, potentially, of a weakening job market.
And if we widen the lens a bit, look at April through June. That trend seems even more pronounced, right? The LFPR consistently dropped 55.6 in April, then 54.8, then 54.2 in June. But over that same time, the unemployment rate actually climbed from 5.1% in April up to that 5.6% in June.
Exactly. So looking at that quarter, you see unemployment going up even as fewer people are participating in the labor force. It really does raise questions about the underlying health of the job market. It's a worrying sign.
Okay, so the source does note that a chunk of this LFPR fall is rural and maybe seasonal. That happens, but it flags a specific concern for urban areas. What's the story there?
Well, urban LFPR also fell, which is part of the overall trend. But the critical difference is that urban unemployment actually increased.
Okay, and the source makes a good point here. In India, maybe the headline unemployment rate isn't always the best metric because people often can't afford zero work. So you get underemployment, disguised unemployment, people taking whatever they can find. So given that context, why should we pay close attention to this specific urban unemployment rise?
Because this combination, rising urban joblessness and fewer people even trying to join the urban workforce, it hits purchasing power directly in the cities. It strongly suggests a reason, maybe a key reason, why urban demand has felt sluggish or tepid. It points towards weakening consumer spending power, right where, a lot of economic activity is concentrated.
And within those urban areas, are we seeing specific groups being hit harder, like demographic trends?
Yes. The data shows that in urban India, male unemployment has actually gone up more significantly than female unemployment during this period.
Interesting. Okay, now let's really zoom in on some specific numbers that the source highlights as quite stark. The female LFPR in urban India.
Yeah, this figure is, well, the source uses the term truly horrendous.
Wow.
Urban female LFPR was just 25.2% in June 2025, and importantly, it's been falling since April. Just for context, the overall female LFPR for India, all areas, women 15 and older, was higher at 32% in June, but that urban number is very low.
That feels incredibly low, especially when you think about other developing economies. It's a huge contrast, isn't it?
It really is. If you compare it internationally, Think about China. Their female LFPR was around 59.6% in 2024. Vietnam, even higher, about 69.1%.
Huge difference.
Massive. And it forces you to ask the question, why is India's urban female participation so much lower? Is it concerns about safety? Are there deeper cultural factors holding women back from the workforce? Or lack of suitable jobs? Probably a mix.
What about young people, the youth? Is there specific data on them in this survey?
Yes, youth unemployment is also shown to have increased. Specifically looking at urban India again, the unemployment rate for young people aged 15 to 29, it was 18.8% in June 2025.
Nearly 1 in 5.
Pretty much. Nearly 1 in 5 young people in cities who were available and looking for work couldn't find even 1 hour of it in that week. That's a significant chunk of the next generation struggling to enter the economy.
So pulling this all together,
Yeah.
what's the big takeaway?
Well, I think the main point is that this June 2025 employment data paints a much more nuanced and frankly more concerning picture than just looking at that stable headline unemployment rate.
It absolutely does. Seeing labor force participation fall while unemployment stays flat or even rises like it did over the quarter,
Yeah.
especially in cities and among women and youth, it really points to deeper structural issues, doesn't it? It's not just about creating jobs, maybe, but creating the conditions for people to actually participate. It almost feels like that stable unemployment rate masks the real story. Like the water level in a pool is dropping, but the surface looks calm for a bit.
That's a good analogy. And connecting it to the bigger picture, addressing these underlying dynamics, youth unemployment, the massive gender gap in participation seems pretty crucial. Crucial for sustaining economic growth, for social stability, especially when policymakers are already concerned about that weaker urban demand we discussed. It highlights the need for a more holistic view.
Definitely. So it leaves us with a question for you, the listener, to think about. How might these deeper labor market trends, the ones beyond the simple unemployment rate, be affecting your own community or the wider economic landscape you see? And maybe, what other signs or indicators might you look for now to get the full picture beyond just those initial headlines?